Okay, good evening, everyone. Before I call the meeting to order, if there's anyone here for the Historic Commission, they are meeting at Spire. That Historic Commission meeting is not here, it's down at Spire. So you have time to get there for them to get started. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Clerk McMillan, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bashir.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown. Councilmember Murdoch.
Present.
Councilmember Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Rabb.
Present.
Councilmember Vogt.
Present.
And Mayor Evans. We do have a quorum. I believe the other two are in the building.
You need to excuse them.
At this point, I don't believe so, because they're going to come in.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's stand for a moment of silence and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would you please, we're looking now for agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda or change it? It's been moved to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second, I do know, I think some of you wanted to make some changes now. Councilmember Murdoch? Put your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to change the order of the hearings
Okay,
to the city manager first, economic development director second, police chief third, mayor pro tem fourth, and mayor Edmonds.
okay, you've heard that motion to change the agenda? It's supported. All in favor? Aye. Okay, are there any other changes to the agenda?
I'd like to discuss Mr. Duchesne's questions about how to set up the hearing portion of it. And there's a series of questions. I think we walk through these questions, we'll be able to come up with a reasonable way of running the hearings.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, and that will be the rules of procedure, and that will follow come right after agenda approval.
Okay.
So, okay, and then we'll have words of wisdom from our city attorney. Okay, all right. Anything else? Any other changes or adjustments? Okay. The vote on the agenda with the changes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. So the agenda will stand as adjusted, please. All right, we come now to audience participation. And I do, I'm sorry, yes, the rules of procedure. I'm looking at the agenda and reading it as it is. I'm sorry. Okay, would you like to carry us through the rules of procedure, please, Mr. Duchesne? Thank you.
Good evening, Council. So on Friday, I've prepared a memo to kind of lay out thoughts to consider in proceeding with today. I can just roll through them and hopefully that'll put us on the right track. So the first question is, should the individuals be questioned separately or as a group? Thoughts on that?
Council, I think he's wanting us to read that.
I think separately.
Separately.
Three. Okay, all right. So if separately, in what order this should be called? Already established that with each, say it again for the record, that'd be good.
The order that they will be called is City Manager Darwin McClary. Number 2, Economic Development Director Beth Arnett. Number 3, Police Chief Tony DeGusti. Number 4, Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Brown. And 5, Mayor Amanda Edmonds.
The next question is, will council wish to recall the individuals after they have already been questioned? So essentially, the question there is, once they've been questioned, are you asking that they hang around until
Please.
you're complete?
Yes.
Agree.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Should the individuals be permitted to provide a statement before questioning?
Sure.
I say yes to that. Any objection?
Is there any restrictions on that? So for instance, do you want to set time, or
5 minutes.
it's up to the pleasure of
It
council?
should be just a synopsis of what they provided
Right.
in the written side.
So nothing formal as far as time or anything?
Not I wouldn't say more than 5 minutes for that statement.
I give the chair the ability to cut people off if she feels they've gone on too long.
So at the
3 to
discretion
5
of the chair?
minutes. If it goes
Yeah.
beyond that, we need to have a pretty good.
No one knows gonna talk for 20 minutes.
I don't think so. They want to, they want to. That's that.
Let Lois cut them off.
Does council wish to ask their own questions or determine questions in advance?
We already decided that.
Yeah. I think it's
What is the-
questions.
Well, we haven't decided them in advance, so we're gonna have them.
Okay, that's fine. So council, ask their own. Should council members question the individuals one at a time or at will? What I'm asking there is, each council member gets their own time to ask the question.
Yeah, I think we should go one at a time.
One at a time, right.
Do one round and then another round.
Are there any restrictions or limitations on the council members in asking the questions? For instance, number of questions or time allowed?
Well, I think it should be, go around it. One, you ask one question and it moves
No,
on.
I understand that. My question is, should there be any restrictions on council when they ask the questions? For instance, council members get 5 or 10 minutes to ask their questions or a certain number of questions.
I think we should leave that to the discretion of the chair.
Okay?
Council questioning should be more than one question at a time because you
You can
have,
follow
you
up.
have a series of
Follow up,
questions.
yes, yeah.
One leads to another.
I agree with that. What I'm asking is, so for instance, you want to go one council member at a time, but for instance, when it's your turn, does council want to limit on, say, 5 minutes for each individual council member to ask their questions or a limited number of questions?
I would leave that up to the chair. If it's, the question is going to be valuable and
What if we did it like this, where we did one round of everybody asking a question with a possible follow-up question, and then we go at will after that?
I was thinking everyone gets 5 minutes, and then once we're through, everyone gets 2 minutes if they forgot something or something follows up. I
Right.
mean, that's a traditional government here.
I like
And if you
that.
don't like 5 minutes, we can make it 7 minutes, we can make it 10 minutes, but I just think it should be, council should be timed, and we get 2 minutes for a follow-up question.
I prefer something like that. I tend to believe a particular question really isn't going to take that long. And I think once we've gone through this 3 or 4 people, we're probably going to get the questions for an individual witness, the critical ones anyway. And we'll all be down to follow-up questions. That's my anticipation.
So I guess I got 2 for 10 minutes apiece with 2 minutes for follow-up. Is that, no, 5 minutes and then 2? Is that what it was?
5 and then 2.
5 and then 2. So each council member gets 5 minutes, and then after we've gone through, then 2 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
And council, they do not have to use all 5 minutes, but they have 5 minutes if they want to. Is that agreed? Yeah, because some people will just try to fill up the 5 minutes and.
That one's answered. This is gonna be this is a question, but it's also kind of my advice. The investigative portion of the meeting, should council be limited for the
You're
purpose?
skipping number 6.
Yeah, we just did that. It's
Oh,
2
okay,
minutes
that
for
was it,
follow-up.
okay.
Yeah. The investigative portion of the meeting only for purposes of questioning, or should council members be permitted to make statements? My advice there is council members ask questions.
I say no to statements. I think until we reach the end of this process, however long it takes, we should not be making statements or reaching conclusions.
Right.
I see
I
3,
agree with that.
one more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And should council ask questions under oath? Should the people providing statements be
I
sworn
say
in?
yes.
See 2, 3. Could I ask, out of curiosity, the purpose for that?
It's a lose-lose question,
It is.
yes. If we say no because we have a preponderance of information already,
Mm-hmm.
then we risk our community feeling like we're not doing a good job.
Sure.
If we say yes, then we present to our, the people that we work with that we don't trust them. So it's a lose-lose. We might as well go for having them under oath.
Okay. So, do I have 4 there? Okay. All right. I don't, so what we have are, and I guess what I can do is state it for the record, and then we could take a vote on that. Does that sound good? The individuals are, hang on, I'll check. The individuals are to be questioned separately in the following order. City Manager Darwin McCleary, Economic Development Director Beth Burnett, Police Chief Tony DeGiusti, Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Brown, and Mayor Edmonds, number 5. Council is requesting that the individuals stick around to be recalled after everybody's been questioned. Time limits on, the individuals will be permitted to provide an opening statement, and the length of that will be at the discretion of the chair, who is Councilmember Richardson. The council members will ask their own questions. Council members will ask questions of the individuals one at a time. First round, 5 minutes apiece, and then follow up 2 minutes. Council members will only ask questions during the, the investigation portion of the agenda, and the individuals will be sworn in. We need to vote on that up or down.
Okay,
I move that.
I second it.
still moved in second that we follow the rules of procedure that were just laid out to us and that we agreed upon. All those in favor?
I would ask for a roll call.
Opposed? Oh, it calls for a roll call. Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bashir,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdock,
Yes,
Councilmember Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Rob,
Yes.
and Councilmember Bowles.
Yes.
So motion carries.
All right, thank you.
So, in preparation for this evening, I've prepared some comments for council to consider and digest. Now, on Friday, there were 2 memos issued. What I'm going to do, because some council members didn't receive them, I will resend them tomorrow morning. You got one of them tonight, but. This evening is a special meeting to conduct an investigation into the funding of recent travel to China by several city officials. Council's authority to conduct such an investigation is pursuant to City Charter Section 2.07. Particularly, the purpose of this meeting is to ask questions of the mayor, mayor pro tem, city manager, city economic development director, and police chief. This is a fact-finding investigation, and the statements made by the individuals being questioned may be used against them in a criminal or civil judicial or quasi-judicial proceeding in the future. The City Council, as the legislative body of the City of Ypsilanti, does not have the authority to issue charges nor grant immunity. Thus, the individuals being questioned may assert any lawful privilege in response to questioning. Since Council does not have judicial authority, the Michigan Rules of Evidence do not apply to this meeting. Simultaneous to this proceeding, the City Council has also authorized the issuance of a request for proposals for special legal counsel to conduct an investigation under the Council's charter authority. Accordingly, an RFP was published last week and responses are due Friday afternoon. While this proceeding and this evening's agenda are at the discretion of council, I would caution to avoid placing any action items on the agenda this evening based on factual conclusions. This will allow time to process the information gathered tonight and allow time for an independent party to continue gathering all relevant facts under council's investigative authority and make recommendations on how to proceed. This will allow the City Council, the administration, and the city's legal office the ability to carefully consider all of the information, both factual and legal, before taking action. As council is aware, the initial investigation was conducted upon request of our office by an independent investigator. We have requested and anticipate a report on any findings from this investigation as soon as possible. City Council is elected to question the individuals tonight under oath pursuant to its charter authority. It is my advice that the city clerk swear in the individuals by asking each to raise their right hand and then respond to the following question. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? By responding to this question in the affirmative, the individuals being questioned may be held accountable for their statements under penalties of perjury. Any questions on that statement? Cool.
Seems to be that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all you have for us? Okay. We'll call for audience participation now. I have a list here, and Mr. Ralph Lane is number one. Please state your name and your address, please. Right. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, the rules are that you have 3 minutes to speak, that we will have order during the time of the audience participation, and actually throughout the rest of the meeting also. But once your time is up, we just ask you to please step back from the mic and please be civil. There's nothing wrong in being civil, and we would thank you for it. All right, Mr. Lane.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Ralph Lane. I live at 1232 Oak Tree Court, Oregon, Ohio, 43616. My daughter, Marissa Lane, is also here. She signed up number 2. She delegated her 3 minutes to me. Okay, so that's it. The purpose that I'm here for is to support Beth Earnett and Police Chief Giusti and allow the Chinese Village project to proceed to the point of presentation of the development agreement to City Councils. My credibility and experience, I have worked on a more than $400 million economic development project. I have papers to support that, and it was in 2 parts. The first energy was $180 million. The BP part was $235 million. I have a 23-page packet here to support what I'm saying. My service to the city of Ypsilanti, I was the city manager from 2012 to 2016. And my administration had an extraordinary record of accomplishments on behalf of the city, plus my personal commitment to helping children at the Parkridge Center for almost 2 years. And that is put in there. I have supervised Ms. Earnett and Police Chief Giusti in their current positions for a longer period of time than anyone else. I also should be noted that in the course of my 35-year career, I've been actively engaged in public sector economic development for 30 years and supervised police chiefs for approximately 20 years. And that Ms. Earnett and Chief Giusti are among the best, if not the best, that I have supervised in my 35-year career. As I'm sure both of them will attest to the fact, I expended a great deal of time, energy, and thought into the how and why of the Ypsilanti Police Department's operations, and directly participated in the city's economic development efforts during Ms. Earnett's time, and as I did with her predecessor. So I was involved in these issues in the city. The city has been attempting to find a developer for Water Street for 10 years, and the only thing we have to show for it is Family Dollar, which I'm not putting that down, but that's a long time. The city mortgaged its future for this project with a $1.38 million debt. The net impact of the approved millage after 4 tries was a reduction of the general fund liability by 42.5%, and the work that my team did and everybody here reduced the debt by about 35% when everything is considered. They paid off the last of the $700,000 of underfunded bonds. So that's over $7 million reduction. The Water Street property has a true value in the tens of millions of negative dollars. The cleanup is estimated at $23 million plus $10 million still debt on that property. And that would make this property hard to move. The original debt was $15.7 million at 6.2% interest rate, and was bonded for 25 years. The estimated value of the project is between 350 and 150 million. If you take the split of that, it's 250 million. You minus $50 million in soft cost, you get $200 million divided by 1 mil. Each mil of this project would be worth $100,000, and that's a conservative number. Entities that would benefit from this millage would be the city. 19 mills at $100,000, it's $1.9 million a year. And other ones that would benefit include, but are not limited, the city sanitation millage, Washington County Road Commission, Ypsilanti District Library, AATA, Ypsilanti Community Schools, Washington Community College. You get the idea. That value would be about $6.4 million. The spin-off of this is, I think, is important. When you have a project of this size, it frequently attracts other projects. The city of Dundee was kind of not even on the map in Monroe County. And an example of that is when they attracted the Cabela's at Dundee, which was the first big development, it then was able to attract the Gemma engine plant in 2 phases. Also, this would also be an anchor for multimodal transit-oriented development. Okay, in conclusion, I have the following brief comments. When we entertained the Herman and Kittle project, virtually everybody on city council, myself, the chief, Teresa Gelati, we all went to somewhere to see the project. So we did our due diligence. This project was 10 to 20 times the size of the Herman Kittle project. The property has, like I said, massive negative value. At some point, it's going to have to be cleaned up. Somebody's going to have to pay for that if this doesn't work out. They've talked about helping the poor. We haven't been able to help the poor as much as we want because of the massive debt we've dealt with. So $1.9 million to the general fund won't hurt. There's a lot of people have questions about what all the numbers are, and I think most of you know I have a pretty good reputation with that. That is not knowable until you have a final agreement with the developer proposed to you, the proposed development agreement that has all those things worked out. I've been doing that for decades, and the quality of that is very important. Last thing, finally. I am, in my years, I am so confident in the integrity and the professionalism of Ms. Ernie and the police chief. Second, that those $8,400 that are at issue, if Mr. Barr determines that your payment needs to be made, I'll pay for it out of my own pocket. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Jerry Dodge.
Here I am again.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Jerry Dodge, and I don't have an address. Let's see. I'm gonna say I would like city council and community members to go through mediation.
What? I can't hear you.
I would like city council and community members, the supporters and the dissenters of International Village, to go through mediation. 10 years ago, I would not have said that there are evil people, or I would have argued with this statement, thinking that everybody is redeemable, and now I don't think that's true. I think that we have some irredeemable people who influence our lives every single day, and they create situations like this. They're divisive situations where we quit listening to each other, where we sling accusations, where we sling defensive responses, where we don't have a chance to have a back and forth. That means community members come in here, they have their say, council members respond in social media, in writing, but there is never a back and forth about this issue between the people who support it and the people who dissent from the issue. That means that for the past month, I have been going, whose side am I on this? And I tell you, I can't decide because it's a side, because I'm forced to take a side in this issue. I know what I think about International Village. I know the decision I would make if I were being asked to make that decision, but I wasn't elected to make that decision, and I prefer to trust the people who have a whole lot more experience than I to make that decision. I know what I would like to see out of Ypsilanti, and that is a supportive community, a supportive city council. I also know I've seen a lot of that from these people. I know that I've known one of these council members since he was this tall, and I have watched the things she's fought for, and I'm gonna trust that she's not out to line her own pockets. I'm gonna trust that this council is not out to line their own pockets, but I do want to see some back and forth. We need mediation. We need to be talking with each other. We need to be listening to each other. We don't need to be slinging accusations, and it makes me want to cry and also vomit to think that two people in Ypsilanti are going to be sitting here questioned, and the impact that that has on their lives, it's not worth it.
Thank you, Ms. Dowd. Katie Clark.
I apologize, my health won't keep me going.
Katie Clark, 430 South Adams. Where is the mayor? I was just wondering if there's like an official reason why some of the people that are under investigation are not in this room now, because I see two people that are under investigation here, which kind of indicates to me that they're allowed in the room. So I'm sort of wondering why they're not here for public comment. That definitely contributes to the bad image that council reps are having right now. That implies that they're not listening to us and don't care. Maybe they could be brought into the room from wherever they are in the building. Also, someone said that the live feed in the basement isn't working, so it might be important to fix that.
We're working on that.
You're working on that? Okay.
The clerk person is not here who was supposed to be setting it up, so we're working on it.
Okay, so the person who is responsible for this also isn't here. That's great. Can we try to make sure also that the people in the basement who might want to participate in public comment have an opportunity to be called up, especially if the live feed isn't working? I'm really concerned about every voice that wants to participate being heard. Other than that, it has been very interesting to read the emails that have been released. It has brought up a number of issues. It seems like Beth Ernat, something fishy is going on. Something fishy has been going on. Beth Ernat seems to be contributing to the fishiness. Seems like she probably needs to be fired. My understanding is that Darwin McCleary, the city manager, is the one who has the power to fire her. A lot of inconsistencies have come to light because of the emails. You know, Amanda says that she didn't see the message from the person from the Wayne State Student and Scholars Association telling her where the funds were coming from before she left. I don't really know why she didn't think to check her LinkedIn profile before she left the country. So it would be great if we could get the receipt on that so that we can have that proof, because as was mentioned earlier, there is a big trust issue. I appreciate you acknowledging that. And the statement that she made when she got back is inconsistent with the information that she had access to at that time. Also, she had a VPN, Amanda, I'm speaking about, had a VPN in China, so I don't know why she was acting like she didn't have access to email. It seems that there was messages sent by Beth Ernat and forwarded to council where she redacted important information. That's super sketchy. What else? I think there's probably a lot of other stuff in the emails. I don't have it all in my brain right now. Hopefully other people will talk about it. Please ask important questions. Please do not take this opportunity to investigate council members lightly. Ethical violations are really serious. There's no way to rebuild that trust if we don't take these ethical violations really seriously. Oh, I have 30 seconds left. The most important point that I almost forgot to say, we obviously need to get out of this development deal, because what this shows more than anything else is that the developers themselves do not take our ethics seriously. That is a huge red flag. There's been so many red flags, from the fact that they were on their phone during the public comment period for the purchase agreement to the fact that they are just going to ignore the ethics code and pay for a trip to China. So more than anything else that happens with the officials, please pull out of this development deal for the sake of the city. Good Lord.
Please. Okay, thank you, Katie. Joan Shores.
I relinquish my time.
Okay.
Did you donate to someone?
Amber Fellows.
Hello, Amber, Jarton Street. I don't have too much to say tonight, actually. What I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Darwin McClary for raising the ethics question early on and sending that over to John Barr's office. I'd like to thank John Barr and his office for issuing a statement right away saying, there are ethical and legalities in accepting gifts from developers. I think that was a good thing to kind of frame where we're at now. After that, it seems like everything else was done pretty poorly. So I won't go into the details except with the emails that we are finding. There are discrepancies in emails. There's multiple emails that have the same timestamp on them, but they have different information in it. So, we do have data scientists looking at this stuff. So they will find, things that will get changed. And this, again, just underscores the loss of public trust. So, we're kind of doing the work of City Council and the Attorney's Office because we don't trust what's gone on so far. And that's basically my grievance with this whole thing, is that the process has been flawed from the beginning and continues to be flawed. And, the John Barr's office sent to the developers, the whole development team, that they cannot fund the trips because it would be unethical and illegal. Yet the developers did fund the trips, so they didn't care. I think we also can't really do this investigation properly without having the FOIAs of all the emails that were sent out. That FOIA request was sent a month ago. We're still waiting on it, so we do need that to kind of have a full picture of what went on. And the last thing I'll say is, I've been very tired because I'm working very hard on all this stuff. And I talked with my mom on the way here, and she holds me accountable, and she plays devil advocate to me often. And she's also a Japanese American, or she's a Japanese immigrant. She's a green card holder, and she lives up north, and she has no idea what's going on. But when I talked to her about this stuff, and she also went to China recently on a very similar trip. But she was a government worker, but she hears the story and she's like, Amber, I don't know what to say except that all of this stinks. It just stinks. And I don't know what your city is doing, but they need to get it together. And I agree with her, and I hold her opinion to a very high standard, and I'm going to continue pushing on this. And I think this is just because the process was so bad. There was a firebomb after we learned International Village was happening. There's a firebomb now, and there's going to continue being a firebomb over and over and over again. That's what you're going to get with us.
Dave Heineken.
Hi, I'm Dave Heikkinen. I have a business at 133 West Michigan. And I know everybody here. I've worked with all of you. I've been up here many times. And I have the greatest respect for all of the city council people, police chief, Beth Ernat, I've worked with many, many times. Of course, the mayor. We don't always agree, but we always talk, and I trust everyone. We trusted you with our city, with our votes. I believe in the International Village development. And I know there's international village development. And there's a lot of people, despite the little gaggle here, there's a lot of people in the downtown on Michigan Avenue, on Cross Street, up and down, business owners who also strongly believe in it. We just don't have the time because we're out there working, we're out there investing, we're out there hiring people to do what we do to make the city great. We promote the city in many different ways. We put on events in this city, and we believe in the city, and we believe in the people. In this particular instance, it's really sad that we're here because we shouldn't be. Nobody took any money. Took any money illegally in the way of putting it in their pocket. And this should have all been fixed on the front end. This never should have gotten to the point where we are here today. City management should have figured this out. We all knew they were going. I knew they were going for months. How we didn't get this settled on the front end and get this, city should just pay, write a check for $16,800. It would have been done with. They would have gone and studied like they should have done. I used to work for a Japanese company. I had to go over there to study and learn how they did things. They had to do the same thing here. And we should have just wrote the check, it would have been done with it, and it would have been nice and clean. I'm not even sure it's not clean right now because they're our business partner. We gave them a discount of, what, 99.5% of the property? We signed a 6 months worth of agreements with them. We're in this together. Who cares if they pay? I mean, we're out there to investigate. I don't think it contaminates any voting. I think this is just a big embarrassment to our city that we caused ourselves, and it never should have happened in the first place. They're good people. The mayor's a good person. I don't agree with her all the time, but she's a good person. Beth is one of the best economic development directors we've had. We've got the bridge and the walkway and all kinds of things that she's done. It's just sad that we're here. So I completely support them. I think we're all guilty here for being here in the first place. You guys asked 20,000 questions anytime there's a dollar involved. Why wasn't this resolved in the front end? That's when it should have been done. We've had plenty of city council meetings. You all were here. So if anyone's guilty, everyone's guilty. It's sort of a Three Musketeers type thing. One for all and all for one. So thank you.
Thank you.
That was offensive.
Lisa, is it Volker?
Thank you, Dave.
Hi there. I just want to draw your attention to page 115 in the emails and page 160. It was interesting to go through them. I feel like I'm learning a lot. I appreciate all of your time. This does not look easy to me from sitting over there. But I did notice that there was text removed, and regardless of the reasons, it just raises, again, red flags for me about why that text was removed when Beth forwarded the email to the city manager. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nathaniel Romero.
Hey everyone, Nathaniel Romero, West Cross Street. Yeah, I think first of all, I wish that I would have known that I could have delegated somebody to have their time. 3 minutes never seems like enough. 6 would have been nice. Yeah, well, I think first of all, I want to thank council for holding this hearing and everybody who voted for it. I didn't get a chance to attend your town hall on Sunday, Beth, but I appreciated that you and City Manager McCleary, when somebody said that I'm in business, we make trips like this all the time, it's on the up and up, that y'all made sure that says, as a city, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I deeply appreciate that. So I wanted to thank y'all for doing that, and also to City Manager McCleary and City Attorney Barr for early on back in May bringing up this issue. It's important. For me, what I found particularly suspicious is having the developer facilitate the transfer of funds. That seemed a little bit odd to me. My intuition is, and I'm not an expert on this by any means, but if you wanted it to be completely on the up and up, it would make most sense for the city to facilitate the obtaining of that funds without the developer doing it. And I feel that if there was more public discussion about the trip, that that issue would have came up during public comments. Yeah, I don't have that much to say about this in particular. I'm looking forward to the investigation. I read the emails, they're scattered. There's a lot that we don't know. There's still a lot of work that we need to do to put the pieces together. So I am watching, I'm listening, I'm looking, I'm reading. From the looks of it, it seems that the economic developer probably had the closest ties to the developer. So I'm particularly curious about that email that Lisa brought up where it was forwarded and Amy Foster's name was omitted, that little bit about her. Also curious about that LinkedIn thing where on September 12th the mayor got a message in her LinkedIn inbox saying that Global Capital Group had funded the trip, something to that effect, and then she said that she didn't receive it until after she got back from China. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious about a lot of things. I just want to reiterate that I thank the council for holding this hearing and for seeing it as an important thing that needed to be done. And I hope that we get to the bottom of this so we can restore public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Dallas Ford. Dallas Ford. Okay. Joy Lane.
I pass.
You passed? Okay. All right, that's all the list that have signed in. Is there anyone else would like to? Okay, Ray, please come to the mic and state your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Ray, and I don't like to give my address because when I did that once, it was published permanently on the internet, and I don't feel comfortable safety-wise for that. I want to say tonight that I live in Ypsilanti because it's a small town, and because, well, we all know each other. It's an incredible place to live, and I've been reading through a lot of the emails and everything that was in the packet too, and I guess what I want to please ask of council is to not run this city like a business. When I was reading some of Darwin's messages, he outlined the importance of creating international bonds and bringing big developers here. Big development creates pollution. It ruins our river, it ruins our air. I want to live in a small town. Most of us enjoy living in a small town. I want to implore you to think about our health first. We have to put health first. How many people in here don't have health problems? We're all suffering. We're finding out that the sprays we're spraying everywhere is killing the bees, it's killing us. Please, we've got to put our air and our food and our water first. I mean, right now our river smells like sewage. I don't know how many people realize that last fall 800,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled into our river off of Getty's Avenue because some guy wanted to avoid the football traffic and drove over a sewer main. We haven't cleaned up our river from that. It smells. We have so much incredible wildlife at Water Street. If we only owe $10 million on that, my question is, could we just keep paying it off and then have that land for ourselves? Because right now the pollution there, it's not hurting anyone. It really isn't. If there's anyone that doesn't like pollution, it's me. All my clothes are organic. I eat 100% organic. The pollution there doesn't scare me. Mother Earth is taking back over. We have foxes at Water Street, we have deer, we have belted kingfisher, we have cormorants, we have herons, we have eagle, we have falcon, we have monarch, we have so many species. Mother Earth has turned that back into a nature preserve, and I think we really have to think about the health of our city. To add large development there, where are the animals going to go? There's nowhere left. We're developing the whole world. If we want to think, natives used to think about 7 generations beyond. If we want to really think about our kids, our grandkids, we have to keep this place healthy. And look, we've got this incredible community. We've got more passion. We've filled the whole building. We can't even find places for people. This is an amazing place. We've got some of you up here have been invested in this town for so long. I know you care. Everyone cares. Everyone wants help. We've got to run this town like our home, not like a business. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see a hand there, yes. Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Quinn Phillips. I'd also like to not give my address since some people who are not happy with my political views have been reaching out to past employers to express that, which is a little odd. We want to talk about like civil discourse. It definitely is not always very civil on the pro-International Village side. And also just a response to the gentleman earlier who talked about our little gaggle of people who are very openly critical of this process. Almost all of us work full-time, if not more, so like, we do find time to get here. Like, I understand not everybody can, but that's not why we're here. So I read the entire packet of emails, and I have a lot of concerns based on inconsistencies in the documents. So, as we know, months before the trip, Attorney John Barr said unequivocally the developers can't legally or ethically pay for the trip to Beijing. The CSSA responded to the mayor's inquiry about the funding via LinkedIn before she left for China, many days before, so it's curious that she didn't read that. As other people have said, she did actually have a VPN, or said that she was intending to get it, so she would have been able to get access to her emails and LinkedIn there. What was I going to say? So the emails indicate that Bethernet knew about the developers funding the trip much earlier than she admitted. Someone earlier had referenced an email chain linking the plane tickets directly to the developer Amy Shue Foster. Wayne, I forget his last name, from the construction company behind International Village, sent an email to Bethernet saying, Amy sent this to me, Amy meaning the developer. And when Beth sent that email to council, that part regarding Amy Foster was removed. After the trip, the mayor said she didn't know if the developer paid for the trip in her public statement, which was untrue. I want to know more about the gift that the developers gave to Beth the shirt. Not that I necessarily think there was anything wrong with it, I'm just kind of curious. Oh, sorry. My apologies to Bethernet. Prior to that, not that I necessarily think there was anything wrong with that, I just want to know more about it. So I also want to know why there are emails in the packet that refer to other emails that were not actually released. Where's the information regarding to the visits in Shanghai? And since staff communicated via text messages, primarily while in China, I think there might be some of those that are also relevant to the investigation. I think it was interesting that when the mayor first got back, she discussed that she had a problem with council talking to the press. I think she has much bigger concerns she should be worried about, such as the developer intentionally circumventing ethics laws. So it bothers me that the mayor has so many supporters who trust her and that essentially she lied to their faces. So I think there's going to be other development proposals with very much less risk to our council, and I think that the developers, by trying to circumvent these ethics laws, have really tainted the whole process. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Devin Leatherman. I live on the 300 block of Jarvis.
You state your name again, please?
Devin Leatherman.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to state that I appreciated your comment about this being a very divisive issue. However, I find it, and this isn't a place for us to talk to each other, but I do think that in regards to that comment, if public had had more input sessions to begin with, then the maelstrom of social media back and forth would not have happened the way that it did. It's unfortunate that I hate social media, and I've been forced to use it more in the last 3 weeks than more than a month than I have probably in the last 2 years. So I do not want to say that anybody's evil. I think that, or irredeemable. I think Facebook and all of these other ways that we communicate have a way of flattening reality and making those kinds of things seem probable when they're not, and people wouldn't come off that way in real life. However, the city did not provide the opportunities that we needed to have the kind of communication that would have allowed us to work through these issues before, and then when we were provided with time to speak, we've still felt unheard. So anyway, moving beyond that, everybody that's come out and spoke against this has, how do I want to put this? All right, I've skipped at least one class, requested time off. So I'm putting my economic and education on the line for this, so I don't ever want to be told that I have all of this free time to just show up to city council. My first city council meeting, I told you guys I'd never been to one, and now I've been to every single one since then, at the risk of everything that I have that I call my own. Everybody else has said everything that I want to about the investigation. I hope that you guys take this very seriously, but I honestly do feel like you are, and this is the best I've felt about the current city council in the last month, but you guys have a lot of work to do, and I expect to see that work done today. Thank you.
Thank you. In the back row.
Two?
No, this, the first man. You would, with the glasses, is your hand up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
It's open.
So, you chose to sit in the back for a dramatic Mike Davis, 905 Grand Street. I'm on the Historic District Commission, don't tell him I'm here. I want to echo a lot. Want to echo a lot of the sentiments that are in here, but what I would really love council to think about is that we put our trust in you all with our votes. And each and every member of our city that did vote, even if they weren't able to vote, but that participated, is trusting you. The most damaging part of these emails and this whole conversation, and what concerns me the most, is that there seemed to be a lack of clear decision-making and honest decision-making from the people that were involved. All the way back in July, there were emails from people saying that they wanted to go on this trip. Then it came out that they shouldn't, it was unethical. And it came out and they made sure that they were able to take this trip. What it says to me is that people are making their decisions before we're thinking about all of the ramifications of them. And we're not thinking clearly and deeply enough about our decisions. And that's very concerning to me and many of the people that I've spoken about as we go forward with this development. You as City Council, we ask you to find a course, a middle way. There's a lot of people that feel very deeply on both sides of these issues, but we can't always be extreme. And that's what we ask you, is to not be extreme. I would like you to think very deeply and very critically about the actions that other city council members have taken and staff has taken, and the way they went about making their decisions, and how those decision-making processes will be brought forth as the development proposals and as the site plans and everything about this development comes forward. We all trust you. We want to trust you more. And please show us that we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, yes, in the back row on the white street.
My name is Deanna White, and I live in the township, in Ypsilanti Township. I've known Amanda Edmonds for 18 years as a family friend, founder of Growing Hope, and more recently, mayor of Ypsilanti. I have known very, very, very few people who are as honest, hardworking, transparent, smart, wise, and well-intentioned as Amanda. My prayer in this decisions and discourse, everything that's happening, is that truth and justice will prevail.
Thank you. Please state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Julia Behe. I live at 401 West Michigan Avenue. I'm deeply local to this whole area. I've invested my whole life here, not really in buildings, but in people and causes. I want to read something that yesterday, Indigenous Peoples Day, kind of got in my mind a little bit yesterday about this whole situation. I went and did some reading that I hadn't done in 30 years. So I'm just going to read this. It Seventh generation stewardship is a concept that urges the current generation of humans to live and to work for the benefit of the seventh generation into the future. It originated with the Iroquois, the great law of the Iroquois, which holds appropriate to think 7 generations ahead, about 140 years into the future, and decide whether the decisions they make today would benefit their children 7 generations into the future. It is frequently associated with the modern popular concept of environmental stewardship or sustainability, but it is much broader in context. In every deliberation, we must consider the impact on the 7th generation, even if it requires having skin as thick as the bark of a pine. This is an often repeated saying, and most who use it claim that it comes from the Constitution of the Iroquois nations. In fact, the original language is as follows. In all your deliberations in the Confederate Council, in your efforts at lawmaking, in all your official acts, self-interest shall be cast into oblivion. Cast not over your shoulder behind you the warnings of the nephews and nieces, should they chide you for any error or wrong you may do, but return to the way of the great law, which is just and right. Look and listen for the welfare of the whole people, and have always in view not only the past and present, but also the coming generations, even those whose faces are yet beneath the surface of the ground, the unborn of the future nation. We are looking ahead as is one of the first mandates given to us as chiefs to make sure to make every decision that we make relate to the welfare and well-being of the 7th generation to come. What about the 7th generation? Where are you taking them? What will they have? I want to suggest that our city, by voting to finally take care of the millage on the land, the debt on the land, was trying to become more sustainable. I want to argue that this current development process is not sustainable. I still want more sustainability, even on our Sustainability Commission, in terms of human representation of the demographics of the population of this city. But on top of that, we have to think about what is sustainable in the long run beyond political careers, beyond personal mortgages, house mortgages, personal lives. We have to think about not only the children in this room, children sleeping all over Ypsilanti tonight, but their children's 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 children.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for just a second. There, did they get the live stream downstairs?
There's at least audio, we're working on video.
It isn't going yet?
There's audio, there's not a video.
I just want
It's
to
going
say, I
out.
noticed that there are numbers in the hall. If you'd like to go downstairs, you can go downstairs, so you're not just standing out in the
Also,
hall.
the laptop they're trying to use for video down there, the person who is allowing them to use it has to leave soon, so if anyone has one that they can bring down there, a PC laptop. But it's a volunteer thing that we just coordinated today. They just texted us. So,
Okay.
if someone has a
thank you.
laptop, they can bring it down
And can
there.
we adjust the temperature? We're just going to do the up and down thing, but it's, I notice, as I look out, I see several people that are quite cold. Yes, okay. Thank you. The gentleman here and then over here. Would you give us your name and address, please?
What's up, guys? My name is Max McNally. I live at 5927 Meadowview Street in Ypsilanti Township. I like to say that I'm here kind of representing the youth because it doesn't really seem like we have any younger voices out here speaking up against what we believe is correct. So first off, I wanted to say that I worked with Amanda Edmonds very closely over the summer to talk about youth civic engagement and youth leadership in the community to engage the younger generation in participating in causes and in sharing their voices out. So I have a bit of context with her and some background as to what she's done. She immediately came off as a caring person, somebody who wanted to hear our concerns and listen to us. But I mean, as we kind of found out over all these emails and whatever you may have, this isn't necessarily the case with how she is as a person and what her political interests are. So I want to specifically talk about, I'm sure other people have hit on this again, but as a youth, we had a Ypsi Community Youth Summit last week, or 2 weeks ago, hosted by the Student Advocacy Center in Michigan, that was specifically talking about how we can build up this community and help people out and letting them take control of their own lives. instead of participating in this, we did send out emails to everybody involved here in the Ypsi City Council. They're all in China doing their own thing and not talking to the people who are going to be affected by these policies long term. So my main point that I'm trying to get at here is just like the amount of good that you could do with this $300 million, the amount of good things that you could bring to the city and bring to the surrounding areas is incredible. We have the potential here. We have so many people here that care enough to come out here and talk and show their support. You could have put in family, affordable housing, childcare, so many things that can help out the surrounding areas. So many students and so many children are still left living off of welfare and food stamps. Don't know if they're going to be able to eat their next meal or not. It's just a really serious issue that we could be doing so much more to productively help the community that's here instead of bringing in other people and gentrifying the area and pushing everybody out who's been here. So again, I just want to say, it's coming from a youth perspective, but that this is going to affect not just the youth here long term. It's going to affect them now, and it's going to affect the city for the rest of the time that we're around. And you're going to see some weird changes coming around here. You might not have the bad numbers that Ypsi Community Schools and Lincoln Consolidated Schools show right now. You might have a bit more wealth in the area, but what you're going to lose is the soul of Ypsilanti. What you're going to lose is the character. You're going to lose everything important about this community and everything that makes it so special. So I'd like you guys to stand in support with the rest of the youth in Ypsilanti and not letting this go through. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Emery Jow Corvo. I live on Arnold Boulevard. So the developers funded the vacation, big shocker to all of us, which is scummy. But for the moment, putting aside the issue of where the shady money came from or how it was shadily moved and hidden, I want to talk about the trip itself. I am wondering what kind of Chinese culture the council members plus police chief were exposed to while in China, which I visited. I went with family, actually, to visit family. I'm very privileged. My family had the money to have me and my sister travel around, so I've been to Xi'an and Beijing and Qingdao and Shanghai, and I've spent months in Taiwan. And so one thing I know from all this experience over the puddle is that China is huge. You can't get a sense of what Chinese culture looks like from going for a week or 2 weeks. I was there for more than a month, and my Mandarin-speaking, non-tourist-looking self didn't feel like I was getting a nuanced understanding of what Chinese culture really was like, because I've lived here my whole life. The council members didn't go to China for a cultural experience, and they didn't go to learn anything. They went for a vacation. That's all. It was a drive. I guarantee you they didn't go to the neighborhoods with more compact housing where actual working-class Chinese people lived. They went to tour the Forbidden City, and they went to go to historic museums. Literally, you can find their receipts in the emails. That's not looking at the culture or at the actual Chinese society and people living there. That's being a tourist. So on that note, I think that I just want to say that it's hella cute the way that non-Chinese people are trying to talk about diversity and how exotic, and oh, now I'm familiar with the culture and that's offensive, and stop. Thank you.
Yes, I'm in the red shirt.
My name's James Blair, I live on the 500 block of 2nd Street. Been here almost 6 years now, and been fortunate enough to experience economic development during that time. I moved over there, the homes were 50% vacant. That's not the case anymore. The neighborhood's pretty much full. We have the new Parkridge development going in, which is only improving the neighborhood. On the downside, I see taxes are really high, and I'd really hate to see the International Village fail going through, because when that project goes through, like Ralph Lane was talking about, that should help lower our cost of living and make it more affordable. And without this project, I don't know the exact stat, but over 40% of the parcels in the city of Ypsi are either nonprofit or dedicated to low-income housing. So without some better tax value property coming in, we're not going to be able to sustain the nonprofits or the low-income housing. And I also think that while there may be some perceived unethical behavior, most likely there was no illegal behavior involved in the trip to China, and I think the investigation will vet that one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman behind the camera, and then over here.
Hey, I'm Isaac Levine, South Hamilton Street. I want to apologize actually because I made an untrue statement at one of my public input moments where I said that the mayor and city council were funded by development interests, and I actually hadn't done my research and it was inflammatory. And I know for a fact that actually only Mayor Amanda Edmonds is funded by real estate development. And so I just wanted to like put that out there. I wanted to speak to the disparity between language around people that talk for and against International Village. I find that often when people are talking for International Village, they cite a we or an us. Like even in the last speech, it was like we'd have to pay a lot less taxes. That being homeowners, business owners, and a business owner come here to say, we're making Ypsilanti great. I've drawn some parallels in the past between the economic bigotry of gentrification and development and the vocal bigotry of the current administration in the United States. And I just want to like lay that out. You really can't ever claim that you're speaking for everyone. That's fact. And so I'm really troubled when someone comes up here and says we or us, because I find that often when people are anti-international development, they cite a personal experience. When people are pro, they cite, we're going to be great. Likely the investigation will be fine. I mean, it ought to be, right, if you're profiting off of it. So I'm also troubled by the fact that Amanda Edmonds and Beth Ernat and Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Brown aren't here. And I would like to say that if they don't show up or if they don't respond to questions, I'd really appreciate it if you subpoenaed them for the information. I think it should be a legal requirement at this point as part of due diligence to the city understanding what is going on. I would be, if this case is closed without them being required to submit that information, I'd be very deeply troubled by that. I'm trying to think of anything else. I also would not like Darwin McClary to appoint the investigator. Because I heard a comment last week where you said, oh, I heard something about passports sometime, and that was new information to me, and it said that there's a lot that hasn't come up, so I guess we'll be hearing about that later. But I don't think Darwin is appropriate for that role. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. My name is Geneva Sharif. I'm an administrator in the local school district. I just wanted to say that I think it's very important for community members as well as city council members that we all operate with a sense of integrity and we have a growth mindset looking at this situation. As a local administrator, when I have my students referencing what's on Facebook, that is very problematic. It's very important that we root ourselves in fact and that we operate in a sense of maturity while investigating the situation. If something problematic occurred, I think it's important for us to investigate, but I also think that it's important to preserve the integrity of these individuals until they're found guilty or until they are presented of doing something illegal. We know that this is individuals' livelihood and their future. I also appreciate the youth who spoke as an administrator. I also remember coming here as young as 12 years old with Nicole Brown and presenting to the city council and being civically engaged and knowing how important our city government is. And I think that what I appreciate the most are community members. We don't have to agree. I think it's very healthy to disagree, but I think that it's very important that we operate one with a sense of integrity and we respect ourselves and others each and every moment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kiran.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karan Gaines. I live at 833 Armstrong.
I am a Human Relations Commissioner here at the City of Ypsilanti, and simply just want to say I see a lot of, I don't know if the word is reverse racism, but y'all get where I'm going once I get to talking. I saw people, for one, come to a lot of meetings. We saw people cry, speak sincerely, without no one really giving any empathy back on how people were feeling. Now all of a sudden we're seeing memes and all these things on Facebook, and everybody's complaining. Like, that's unprofessional. And everybody's sensitive now. But it's like, what about when the people, it wouldn't have got to that point if certain questions was answered in the beginning. If people show that they care, people have actually came here and at the Freight House and cried, shaking while they're talking. And I haven't saw one status from nobody aiming at that saying, look, we're working hard, we're sorry you feel this way, it's very important to us, we're trying our best. Nothing. We just keep getting turned on each corner, lie after lie, this is being added on, and now people are reacting in a certain way. Now they're trying to reverse it and saying, you guys are wrong. That's not right. That's unethical, and that's not professional. So, another thing I think of, what if? What if the Human Relations Commission never put in a motion to have a specific meeting on International Village? What if Brian Foley and Mike Simmons didn't have a meeting on the south side about gentrification? What if we didn't decide that we're going to put flyers on cars? Me and my son got up on a Sunday and put over hundreds of cars in the heat, letting people know about the meeting. So if we think it's bad now, what if all of us didn't act on the things that we did? We have really been in a bad shape. And it's scary thinking about what if we didn't act. So like I say, it's just sad to see that people are trying to reverse things now, when the whole time all people was asking is what's going on. Now all of a sudden, like I said, things are trying to be reversed, and to me that's so unfair. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak today, but Veronica Irvin, 1564 Village Lane. My concern is about the status of these visas. You guys do know there's different type of visas, right? A tourism visa, that's when you go on vacation. If you're going to do business, you don't apply for a tourism visa. So I don't understand where the business part came in when all you have is a tourism visa. When you're in China, you're not free to go wherever you want to go. You have to be taken by people that are from there. So I'm just trying to figure out why the designation was a tourism visa. That kind of says a lot to me right there. I have a couple of visas. One's a tourism visa. The other one is for business. Don't know if you guys knew that or not, but it's kind of fishy. Tourism visa and you're going for business. Something doesn't connect.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no hands. Okay.
Can we check the basement?
Yeah, could we check the basement before I go?
Pardon?
Could we check the basement before I went?
I'll go
If there's
ask
anyone
the
from downstairs before I go, I'd like to give space to those people.
Somebody's
They were having some trouble with the
We can't hold the meeting,
Okay,
so
no
if you
worries.
want to talk,
Absolutely.
come out, please. Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Peyton, and I live on the Commons. Like many people here, I'm tired and enraged. I just came here from work, if you couldn't tell. I'm a landscaper. And although I'd love to fulfill the myth of the stay-at-home millennial, I literally can't afford to. I'd like to acknowledge the bravery of the folks who have come up here to speak and sacrifice their time and energy to investigate this matter. I'd like to talk about the Commons and what that is. It's been mentioned not by name, but in spirit by a few people here tonight. What that means to me is the land and the relations that are built in public trust. And I would like to preserve that as best we can. And so I'd like to share a poem that was actually written about 600 years ago in England that deals with these issues. And it goes something like this. The law locks up the man or woman who steals the goose from off the common, but lets the greater villain loose who steals the common from the goose. The law demands that we atone when we take things that we don't own, but leaves the lords and ladies fine who take things that are yours and mine. The poor and wretched don't escape if they conspire the law to break. This must be so, but they endure those who conspire to make the law. The law locks up the man or woman who steals the goose from off the common, and geese will still a common lack until they go and take it back. And I mentioned that poem because I think it's incredibly pertinent for the issues that are happening here. I think that it's been mentioned a few times that a public trust would be a great thing to do. We can talk about bioremediation in an authentic manner, not just simply taking the soil and putting it somewhere else, replacing it with other soil. That doesn't make a lot of sense. It's been said that Mother Earth is already reclaiming this site, and I believe that we should work with her in public trust to do so. I think there's a lot of resources. Y'all can look them up. A lot of people are doing that work right now. Thank you.
The last 50 minutes.
Tyrone Bridges, Ypsilanti native actually, former mayor of Ypsilanti candidate. I ran against Amanda Evans and also Pete Murdoch. On a funny note, Amanda could have called me and asked me about the trip to China. I would have told her I wouldn't go myself. You didn't have to ask John Ball. But this situation right here puts a black eye on the city. You guys are competing with the headlines of children being murdered. And it's funny because we have a lot of violence that's happening that the city could be actually working with the township on as partners. But this doesn't show a partner potential relationship when you got competing headlines with scandal versus kids getting killed. We are out here working hard to help these kids as well in the township. I was doing it at Ypsi, didn't get very much support, but these scandals seem like they take over front headlines at all times. Instead of a city coming together and working together, transparency, this has to happen. This is sad. It makes everybody sad. I'm here just to be nosy because I want to know what they got to say about this situation. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to come up here and hold the mic, but they really want to hear from the mayor. They want to hear it from her mouth. And that's what I'm really here for. I want to record and listen and hear from her mouth and let the investigation lay where it may. But we got to stop taking these black eyes because it don't look good for us. And I'm not pointing the finger, but we got work to do with these youth out here as well because they killing each other. And y'all over here fighting about this China trip, and we about to get ready to plan to bury a child over a beef over a girl. So come on. Y'all got to do better. And these people deserve better. Thank you.
All right. Okay, yes.
My name is Ezra Trombley, and I'd like to start by saying that I think my post office is still registered here, but I am technically a commuter student. or I am a commuter student. But I've been in Ypsi for the past 4 years, and I'm a sociology major. And as such, I thought it was probably important to say something on behalf of the community as far as I can speak to it. We are a great community. I have enjoyed my time here so tremendously. I think that so many people are so good-spirited and we all have each other's best interests. Well, not all, obviously, but most of us, many of us, have each other's best interests in mind. And we don't need to pollute that by turning our city into a business. There's no reason for that. And yeah, I had so many things I wanted to say, but I didn't actually plan to speak because it was a spur of the moment thing. But yeah, I just implore you all to get involved, everybody, and thank so much for the people who came out.
Thank you. Yes, back by the door.
Hi, my name is Shauna McNally. I live in the township. I've lived here basically my whole life, or well, within the area. My parents lived in Charles Street when I was born, and I grew up in the township going to Lincoln schools. Lived in Ann Arbor for a while, about approaching 20 years now, back when there were still some affordable housing there. I also hadn't planned to speak tonight, but I was reading this pamphlet. The entire idea for the International Village coming into Ypsi and using that space, I think many residents can tell you that it doesn't make sense. We have, if you've gotten the grants or the tax funds and everything to clean up the land, it seems like the least we could do is put that land to use to serve our community as it stands right now. We don't have, we have lack of affordable childcare. Another thing in here said that maybe affordable housing was going to be planned. Somebody else had mentioned that we need to have a higher tax base thing here. I just want to say that I don't know the entire situation, but almost never would a major development like this go in if somebody weren't getting some serious tax breaks. So the likelihood that anything's going to be coming back into the community from this is slim to none. I'd also heard that maybe there would be some stores that you put in the bottom, which is going to provide minimum wage service jobs. We've got a lot of those. We don't have good quality services and good quality jobs and opportunities for our residents to advance beyond minimum wage service jobs. So we can see, I think everybody here is aware, if you look at what's happening in Ann Arbor, like I said, I live there as I raised my children as a single mom, a student at U of M, and a waitress. So there was something affordable for me there, but we've seen just the development over there encroaching and pushing everyone out. We have a lot of, essentially economic refugees that are now living in Ypsi. And now we're going to put in $1,720 a month, 800 square foot housing? Why? We can pay that in Ann Arbor right now. It's a terrible idea. And I wanted to speak to what the gentleman just said here, that we have a city that has real issues. We have enormous, almost 50% poverty level, and that's just actual poverty. They're not counting the working poor that don't even qualify. We have violence. We have kids that are being killed, and we're talking about. I don't even know what this is. It's a mess. And I see you guys, and I've been looking for the back of the room, and you guys are sitting under a Black Lives Matter flag and a We Support Refugees Muslim Neighbors flag. And I want to know how many refugees could afford to move into this place. And if Black lives really matter, then take care of them in this city as we stand right now.
Thank you. Seeing no hands, I'd like to bring audience participation to a close so that we can move forward with the meeting. Seeing no hands. Seeing no hands. Seeing no hands. Okay, thank you. Thanks to all of those that chose to come up and to participate in audience participation. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for taking time to come and share with us. And we will move on with the meeting. Okay. At this time, we would like to start our hearings, and we would call City Manager Darwin McCleary. If you would take the seat in front, please. Okay, good evening, Mr. McCleary. We are glad you chose to come and sit before us this evening and to come and to partake and answer questions that we have and that to try to clear up this entire situation. And hopefully we can come to a point, we can't. What's that? We will. Okay, please, okay? We got this. But we want to, we're glad that you're here and willingly to come and so that we can try to bring some sense out of all of this that's been going on. And now I'm gonna ask Clerk McMullen if she would swear you in, please. Thank you.
City Manager McCleary, do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right. As the rule of procedures were established, I'd like to start with Councilmember Murdoch. If he so chooses, would you like to make an opening statement or?
Your Honor, I have no opening statement at this time.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My series of questions is basically going to deal with many of the things you reported to us on the funding of this trip, basically. So, from your responses and emails, it appears that you had no involvement with the planning and coordination of the China trip. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And after the trip was talked about on the May meeting, you sought a opinion from the city attorney, which was returned saying the trip should not be funded by the developer. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you sent that to all the players in the city council?
I sent a copy of that to the city department heads, and the city attorney asked that the city clerk provide a copy to council.
You first became aware of the Chinese Student Scholars Association of Wayne State offer to pay for the trip around September 1st in the conversation with Beth Leonard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You were keenly aware of the funding source issue because of what we just talked about and on the subject of public concerns. And in one of your statements, you asked Ms. Burnett about any ties the student group had with International Village. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what was her response?
Her response was that there was no connection between International Village and CSSA, the Chinese Students and Scholars Association.
On September 9th, or shortly thereafter, you received emails from Ms. Burnett reiterating the offer of the student group to fund the travel to China, and the letter from the Chinese group offering the funding and requesting authorization to notify City Council, which was done. City Council received the memo and letter from the student group on September 11th. That was the first that City Council was informed officially of the trip, who was going, and that the student group was funding it. The invitation letter was dated September 7th from the student group, but was not sent directly to the city. It was sent to Amy Foster, who forwarded to Wayne Hoffman of Spence Brothers, who sent it on to Ms. Burnett, and then to you. Didn't the direct connection between the developer and the invitation from the student group raise some red flags and concerns given the city's attorney's opinion on funding?
Raise some red flags for me? Is that the question? Just to clarify, I did not see the emails that Ms. Nat had sent to me on September 9th. As I noted in my responses to council, my husband was in the hospital that weekend. And I was gone on Monday, September 11th. She called me on Monday and read the email to me and asked me if it was okay to forward it on to the council on my behalf. And I told her it was okay to do so.
So you were not aware that the letter actually went through the developer and wasn't sent directly to us, the request from the student group?
I
at
was
that
not.
time?
I was not aware of that. No.
But when you received the written exchange of emails, did that raise any issues with you?
I did not notice the bottom of that email that it had come from the Spence brothers until actually I was looking over these documents. When I looked at the email, I saw the initial message from Beth, and I went right to the attachment, which was the letter. So I did not look at the bottom of that email at that time. I did notice it later when I was looking back over this packet.
Now, to the Chinese consulate funding, or alleged funding. First you heard of the Chinese consulate funding, the trip was from a conversation with Amy Foster, one of the developers, and the development team at the Tuesday, September 19th meeting. Is that correct?
That is not when I heard of it, no.
Okay, when were you aware of it?
I was aware of it when I received a phone call from Mr. Perkins, from the city attorney, indicating to me that Mr. Perkins had contacted him and wanted a comment about the fact that there were conversations between Mr. Perkins and a student representative with CSSA, indicating that International Village provided the funding for the project. That's when I first learned of that possible connection.
All right, so Mayor Edmonds and Ms. Ernest, in their written statement, said they were informed by the development team on that night of Tuesday the 19th. You were not involved in that? You weren't informed in that?
I was not involved in that conversation.
Neither were we, by the way. We were never informed of that until you sent your memo on the 23rd. Beyond that. So, on September 25th, we received an inquiry from Tom Perkins alleging that the source of funds to the county, to the student group was from the developer. Can you share that email in response with City Council? He said the funding was a grant from the Chinese consulate to the student group. This was the first that City Council was informed of the Chinese consulate's involvement. In a memo to City Council on September 27th, you stated that you were informed by Ms. Ernest in a telephone conversation on the 26th that the funding was a grant from the Chinese consulate and a check was cut to International Village and was supposed to be forwarded to the student group.
Councilman, he gets 2 minutes. Oh, okay.
I'm almost done.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. You stated you informed Ms. Ernest that it is the position of the city that any involvement directly or indirectly by the International Village in the funding of the China trip is at the very least inappropriate and that the funding should have been provided by the Chinese government directly to the student group or Wayne State University. Ms. Ernest informed you that a statement from the student group or Wayne State be forthcoming. Later she called you and said that informed you that no public statement would be made by the Chinese government or the student group, but all statements would come from Wayne State University. Did we ever receive a statement from Wayne State University?
I did not.
It's kind of a general why, given the obvious issues with the funding of this trip and the importance of this trip, according to the Economic Development Department and I think you also, why did you not seek City Council approval for the trip and its funding? I know we have no money, but.
Well, the council and I both received the same information about who was funding the trip. And we were informed right around September 11th. The letter from CSSA was an offer to provide scholarships for those trips. They indicated in their letter that they were a nonprofit, a Michigan nonprofit corporation, if I remember correctly. I can only tell you what my thought process was at the time. I can't speak for anyone else, but when they indicated in their letter that they were a Michigan nonprofit, it was the Wayne State University Chinese Students and Scholars Association. Based on my communication with Ms. Zernat, that there was no connection between International Village and CSSA, I did not have any concerns at that time. And I knew that that letter had gone on to the City Council. And I did not receive any feedback from council that this is something that should be placed on the next agenda for approval, and that is why it did not go on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
So, just to clarify, Councilmember Murdoch, you need 5 minutes and then Mr. Chairman.
2 minutes, yes. Yes.
I have
Councilmember Bashir. You used your 5 minutes and then your 2 minutes.
I want to ask a follow-up question to one of the questions Mr. Murdoch asked, and that was regarding the email chain where you were gone for the weekend, you came back, Mr. Net called you and read the email. Okay. Did she read you the email, including the chain portion of it? Of where it had sourced from and the whole trail? No. Okay, she just read you, what part of the email did she read to you?
She read me the body of the email itself, the message that she wanted to forward on to the City Council.
So you had no knowledge about where that email originated from and at the time?
No.
Okay. Which leads me to a more general question about, in looking over the emails about, and the communication about where the trip was funded from, the absence of any communication from the consulate was striking to me, okay? And was there other communication from the consulate that was not included in there? Any phone calls, any verbal communications where we had that you heard about, that we had contact with them, anything like that?
I am not aware of any communications between the city and the Chinese consulate.
Did Beth ever point out to you the rest of that email chain in any way related to the history where it came from? I think I'm repeating this question, but this is key to me.
No.
Okay, thank you. Did you ever see the check that came, that paid for the trip? Did that ever pass by your desk?
Not until it was in the packet.
Did that ever touch the city, or did it go directly to the travel agency?
I can't answer that for you. I don't have firsthand knowledge of that, other than what I've read in statements from other people.
So how would you describe your involvement in this particular portion, the trip, arranging the trip? How would you describe your relationship with the arrangements and how it got set up, just in a general way?
I had no involvement in the arrangements of the trip itself. The only involvement I had was the information that was being provided to me by Beth, Ms. Ernat, regarding general issues dealing with the trip. from the time that the trip was first mentioned on May 23rd. We had some discussions over the course of the next few months about the funding. The fact, after I made it clear that the funding could not come from the developers, I know that she was aware, or I was aware, that she was talking to other entities, MEDC, Spark, and LDFA. Those three entities I was definitely aware that she was talking to. And at one point, I was told that, that they were going to fund the trip. And then I was surprised on about September 1st when I heard that CSSA was going to be funding the trip, because my understanding for a good part of the summer was that Spark and MEDC was going to be funding the trip.
So the student group was surprised, is what you're saying?
It was a surprise to me, only from the standpoint of I didn't understand what their interest was in the city of Ypsilanti.
Ed, can you tell us the conversation that happened when you heard about this? Was it verbal, was it written, when you first heard about the CSSA?
It was a telephone call, I believe. Yeah, it was a telephone call.
And in that telephone call, did you discuss the source of the money that the CSSA may have had, or was it just to say, okay, we got the funding? Was there any follow-up questions asked in that conversation?
There was no conversation about the source of the funding. My assumption from what was told to me was that CSSA was providing the funding. I did ask, again, I did ask at that time whether there was any connection between International Village and CSSA. I was told that there was not. And I asked Ms. Ernat why CSSA would offer the funding for the trip, and she had indicated to me that the reason for that was because they were interested in fostering a cultural exchange between the city and China.
And did Beth offer any, Ms. Ernat offer any evidence or any, verification that the money would not have come from the Business Association? I'm going to wind up with this question. Did you offer any verification that the CSSA was independent of anything, or did you just say there's no connection and it was left at that?
She only indicated there was no connection. Okay. She didn't provide any type of concrete evidence.
That's all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ford.
This is a hindsight question. What went wrong? You, Ms. Ernat, council members that went, any of us, council. What could have been done better? At what stages? What is your hindsight view of things? For you to evaluate yourself, Ms. Ernat, everybody, the individuals involved. Do you think they should have done something additional? And what is it?
I think when we face these types of situations, we always look back on them and we always say, we could have done this differently, we could have done that differently. And this is no different than any other situation. Looking back on it, we could have looked further into the CSSA, tried to get some financial information on them, checked their nonprofit status. I'm not sure we necessarily could have gotten information on how much money they have in their bank accounts or anything, but there are definitely things we could have looked at more closely to confirm what they had indicated in their letter.
Do you think we should have contacted the consulate earlier?
At that point, we were not even aware, I was not aware that the Chinese consulate was even involved in this at all. So that would not have even been something that would have triggered us to do something, as far as the consulate is concerned.
Are you aware of any facts whatsoever that would suggest that anybody on the city end knew prior to the trip that the money passed to the developer's hand?
I have not seen any information that would indicate that there was knowledge on the part of any city official that the money had passed through International Village to CSSA. I've only seen the comments or the responses that indicated that on the 19th, the mayor and Ms. Nat were informed that the consulate was providing funding, if I remember correctly.
Do you have any information whatsoever that anybody on council or in the city had any kind of agreement or understanding with the developer or someone on the developer's behalf to trade funding for the trip for a vote or a decision on the International Village issue?
I do not have any such information.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Rob.
Yes, a lot of questions have been asked, I'll try not to repeat, I only have a couple. On 9/27, you emailed council about you being informed of additional details of the Wayne State CSA funding. Were these additional details that the money was passed through the developer before going to the CSSA?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Sure. On 9/27, this email was not provided in the packet. This was, I think I started this email response on the 26th or 27th when I was on vacation. On 9/27, you emailed council about you being informed of additional details of the Wayne State funding. I'm trying to understand, were those additional details that the money was passed through the developers before going to the Student Association?
I was informed during my phone conversation with Ms. Ernat,
Let me pull up the email and try to put this in better perspective. All right, okay, so you, let me find the right spot. All right, you said during a telephone conversation I had with Mr. Knight yesterday morning, I was informed of additional details of CSA's funding. And those details were that it was passed, the money came through the developer. That was the moment that you learned of if the money actually passed through them, and the money somehow came in contact with the developer. That was the first time.
correct. At 9:31 on Tuesday, September 26th, 9:30 in the morning, I had a phone conversation with Ms. Ernat, and that's when she informed me that she had learned from following up with people in China and discussions that International Village had applied for a grant from the Chinese consulate, that the Chinese consulate had awarded the grant, and that a check was cut to International Village, who is then going to be turning the check over to CSSA. That's what she informed me during that phone conversation.
All right, since the story broke wherein the Chinese consulate has denied providing funding for this trip, have you contacted or directed anyone from your staff to contact Ms. Foster to better understand this discrepancy?
I have not.
Do you plan to contact or direct anyone from your staff to contact her and better understand this discrepancy?
I do not, and the reason for that is that the council is now involved in an investigation into this, and I think it's better handled through that process.
And I guess the last question is a more general, broad question. A lot of things happen in the city, but there's a lot of updates. We get weekly, or we get updates from you during meetings, or your memo when we have council meetings. We also get council information letters. And if you read the council information letters, we get such granular details, how much revenue we've generated from collecting from the fabric recycling. We also are notified when First Fridays are and things like that. But in all of those in all of those opportunities to update council, we were never told that council has applied for visas or staff has applied for visas. Considering the amount of minutia that we are updated on, why was a significant detail like that never shared over the course of the summer?
I really don't have a good answer for you on that, Counselor.
You want your 2 minutes.
What's that?
You still have 2 minutes.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
You're fine.
I think the questions, a lot of stuff is repeated.
What's your bad age?
Mr. McCleary, I've been reading your memorandum where you answered the questions that were put before you. I noticed that you consistently said, to the best of my knowledge and belief, I possess no information in response to this question. As you can see, were some of them, that was very well, maybe could be the correct answer about when visas were received and some of those dates and everything. But I have a question. You sent us an email back when the question concerning the legitimacy of the payment for the trip, saying that it didn't come through my office, I don't know, and I can't, you put it all over there, so to speak. And my question is that, as city manager, do you not see it your responsibility to know all that's going on, or as much as you can know, as soon as you can know? I see the city manager, and maybe you don't see your position as such, but I see a city manager that we hired you really to kind of take care of the city, to oversee, and the city, I'm sure, of course, with direction from council, but that the job is yours to know what's going on in the city, what's happening with the staff, and why it's happening, when it's happening. And that your answer bothered me, that, well, it didn't come through my office. I don't know anything about it. And I guess I'm going at this a different way. I'm looking at it as your responsibility for the city. And I think that those things that you have said you didn't know, and even the questions here at the table that you said, well, I wasn't aware of them, that those were things that as city manager you should have really been aware of. Do you have any, feelings about that? Do you think that you should have known what was going on?
I do believe that I should have been better informed as to what was going on. I completely agree with you, Your Honor. And without making excuses, because there's no excuse for the communication that needs to occur. But I do think that the council, I would hope that the council understands the limitations that we have with the limited staffing we have. And that does pose some challenges for us in doing all of our jobs. But I completely agree with you that I should have been better informed.
And I see the limited staff and all the limits you just, quoted. I see that all the more reason why you would want to know what's going on so that these kinds of situations do not arise. And it might take some more supervision on your part, or just letting a better form of communication between you and the staff. I know you have staff meetings every week. Why wasn't this brought up at staff meetings, with the chain of getting to China? And I don't know that in going through the emails, and remember recalling the emails that I received, it was quite late in the process that I recognized that there was a group going to China. But my first recollection was when Ms. Arnett announced it at a town hall meeting that I hosted over at Perry School. And it was like, oh, yes, there's two of us going. Those were her comments at the meeting. And then later on, began to get an email saying that there were 4 that were going. And by then, the trip was completely planned and evidently paid for. So I'm glad you can acknowledge that you should have kept a closer lid on exactly what was going on. Thank you. Anyone like there that did not use their 2 minutes, would they like to go back and use them? Unfortunately, you use your 2 minutes, yes. If you want to pass your question over to her, she can use her 2 minutes if she wants to give them to you.
Point of order.
Yes.
With all respect, my council members were supposed to be asking questions to obtain facts, not making comments at this point. So, and the reason I make the point is not to suppress anybody's comments, but because we have a limited time to get facts. So please focus on questions to get facts. For now.
Thank you. But we did get some facts out of the statements, yes.
No criticism, I just,
Right.
for efficiency's sake.
Yes, but there's more ways than one to get to it, so, but I received that. Okay, anyone else have any questions for Mr. McCleary? I won't ask that, but yeah, I'm trying to find if any council members, that did not use their 2 minutes want to use them. Okay, you did not want to make an opening statement. Are you ready to, would you like to make a closing statement, or?
I have nothing else to add, Your Honor, other than to say thank you for your time. I appreciate the process you're going through, and I appreciate the time you talked to us.
Okay, thank you. Next is Economic Development Director Beth Arnett. Is she here? And while you're calling her, would council like to take a 3-minute break to stand and stretch?
Who are they calling?